right. Hello, everybody. Hello and welcome. All right. So happy to have you all here today. Happy Thursday, everybody. And just want to check on my tech a little bit. Do we hear a little bit of an echo, Stephanie, or is it just me?
I'm not hearing it on my end. It sounds okay on this side.
Okay. Yeah, I think I might have just solved it. All right. So thanks for your patience, everybody. All right. So we're going to go ahead and get started. And so to kind of kick things off, I have a little question for everybody. It's probably a rhetorical question, but ever feel like tech is running you instead of the other way around? I did a little research on this and come to find out, about 70% of entrepreneurs get really frustrated with the tech, and it is a big hurdle for them to manage. So, I want to welcome everyone to Live with Lesli. We're going to tackle that problem today. And because today we're going to delve into how the right tech systems can actually help you to scale with ease. And that I think really is the key, with ease, without all that burnout. Because what I hear all the time, and I'm sure Stephanie can attest to this, is the tech is just so challenging. And it really does contribute to frustration, just things taking too long, inefficiencies, and ultimately to burnout. So we're going to talk about some practical ways to help you to streamline your operations, free up your time, and still be able to provide that top-notch care to your clients and your patients. So I am also joined by my dear friend, Stephanie Hofhenke from String Marketing. She is a tech expert, and I really think you're going to love what she has to share today. Also, real quick, just want to remind everybody, if you're watching on YouTube, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. And if you like what you see here, be sure to click the like button because it really does help our channel to grow. And also, if you're on Instagram, be sure to click that follow button so you don't miss any updates. So before we jump in, I'm going to just take a moment and share Stephanie's bio with you, so you have a little bit more of an appreciation in terms of her background. So Stephanie Hofhenke is the founder of String Marketing. And for the past 15 years, they have been helping practitioners to streamline their marketing and technology. They combine an all-in-one marketing platform with hands-on support and expert marketing guidance to help practices grow without wasted time and tech overwhelm. So welcome, Stephanie. Delighted to have you.
Me, Lesli.
Yeah, my pleasure. Always a treat to be able to sit down and chat with you.
Absolutely.
So let's go ahead and jump in. So let's talk a bit about the practices. We have practitioners with us today, probably some health and wellness coaches, dietitians, naturopathic doctors. Quite a big combination of different types of practitioners. So what would you say one way practices can clean up their client communication so that it feels more, more intentional and just less scattered? So let's start with the communication process.
Yeah. So what we see typically with practitioners when we're really digging in is it's not necessarily a communication problem. It's not knowing what to say. It's not anything like that. It's just there's so many ways to communicate with people now, and having disconnected systems and having multiple places where you're having to go to communicate. One, it makes it really difficult to kind of track like what's going on with that one particular lead or client. It's also really difficult to just keep up on it all and feel like you're, have that high touch in your practice, that creating those relationships and things like that. But then also just having that snapshot for inside your business of like, who actually is a lead right now? What do I have in my pipeline? A lot of practitioners have it down pat when it comes to delivering their services and following, giving their clients high value in that particular instance. But when it comes to onboarding leads, getting people through your sales pipeline, maybe some retention, different things like that, that, maintaining that overall communication can really be difficult from a disconnected tool. So I think, cleaning up your communication is really look at the tools and all the places that you're having to go to communicate, and streamlining that is like the number one thing. Because a lot of times you don't need another assistant. You don't need, some of those things. You need, a better tool to bring it all together.
Oh my gosh. And I don't know who said this to me, but it really resonated. Like when we have all of these different subscriptions, it's like death by the $20 a month subscription. That really landed for me because that's what I see all the time. And, it's something that I think we have to really be aware of.
Right. It's really hard. Not all those systems, communicate with each other, and the information's all over the place, and it doesn't create a really great experience on either end. It's a hard time for your clients, and it's also difficult on your end with admin. And how do you get people, train somebody in when you're the one that knows where everything is and all of those kind of things? It can really be a hurdle.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's talk a little bit about group programs and digital products, because I know many people in our audience, this is the direction that ultimately they would like to go in. So let's dig in, roll up our sleeves on this topic. What would you say is the first thing that we need to think about more from a systems perspective as we start to delve into and maybe even start creating group programs and digital products? What do we need to think about?
Yeah, so most practitioners, they have a lot of ideas for what they want to teach, what the information they want to share, all of those things. But when it comes to implementing that in your business, you kind of have to back up. And with tech, there's still strategy, right? There's still some of those basics of what is that delivery and sales path. So the delivery of a course or digital product really needs to be informed by who you're selling this to. Is it existing clients? Are you trying to reach a new audience? Where are they coming from? What does that experience need to be? How do you make it as automated as possible so you're not having to we want passive income. There's really no such thing as passive income, but you want it as passive as you possibly can, to be able to get people in that door. So you really have to back up and say, who is it for? Where would it be accessed? Of course, is the delivery, and how do you want to sell it? So what's the funnel? What's all the pieces that you need there? And I'll be honest, there a lot of people don't realize how many pieces there are to selling something. You have landing pages, you have follow-up emails, you have checkout pages, and then there's the actual delivery and maybe even accountability in that and different things like that. So all of those different pieces, a lot of times you're having to go to a lot of different systems to get all of those accomplished. And you certainly can do it that way. But there's a lot more, many more solutions that are more all-in-one, kind of all-encompassing for your sales process. So yeah, digital projects, it's back up before you're, because the content is actually usually fairly easy for practitioners. Yes, it takes time, all of that kind of stuff to develop all of that. But really think through, like, who am I going to sell this to ultimately? Because that's going to inform the entire process and how, that sales path.
Oh, I love that. It's really true. So let's take a little step back, because I'm guessing there might be some people in our audience that, they hear the word sales funnel, but they don't really know, like, what exactly is that?
Right, exactly.
So can you kind of walk us through what that is?
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. So when you're thinking about a sales funnel, it's all the way from when the first time somebody might notice you, that you have the first, it doesn't even need to be an interaction. It might just be that they view something with your information, all the way through until they sell and when they become a client. So funnel is the entire business, really. There's really not a point in your business when you're not in a sales funnel or your client's not in a sales funnel. It's just that they're in different stages. So In the beginning, in the top of the funnel, we call it, which is the widest area of the funnel, is going to be, awareness and attraction. So that's some of those traditional things you think of as marketing, where it's the social and speaking and things like that. And then as you get deeper into the funnel, there's more. The next phase is engagement of some sort, whether they're giving you an email, maybe a follow on social, interacting with you via DMs, things like that. A little deeper then is even like your sales process, then discovery calls, maybe more interaction via chat widget, like you're getting deeper into the interest in your business. And then of course, finally, there's the sale. So there's all this activity and stuff that's happening at this top part, where they're needing a lot of touch points. And that is the hardest place to work, right? You're reaching the most people. It takes the most time, all of those things. And as they get deeper into your funnel, they become easier to move to the next step. But really, when you're in a funnel, you're always trying to think of, what is the next step I can get that person to take? Is it giving me their email? Is it scheduling the discovery call? Is it purchasing the product? And so when we're talking about a funnel, especially for digital products, there's a couple different ways to approach digital products. And I don't think a lot of people think of that. A lot of times people think it has to be from the top of the funnel. It has to be one of the first things they do, right? Like, I'm going to go out on social, I'm going to post about my course, and then a bunch of people are going to buy that course. And that's just one, that's not always the case. Two, that it certainly can be the case, but that's like a different kind of activity. The amount of activities that you're doing at the top of the funnel then increase pretty drastically to get new clients, top of the funnel, into a course. Is one model that, it takes a lot of activity on social, a lot of emails, you're on top of that. So when they say passive in that way, it's not always passive, right? Because you really become a little bit more of a marketer in that particular instance. The other place where people don't always realize that it's an excellent way to expand your revenue and save your time, and is actually a lot easier to launch, is expanding offerings with digital products and courses and things and memberships for existing clients. So you're already working with them or have worked with them. They already know, like, and trust you because they've worked with you. So a lot of that activity and the marketing and the relationship building has already been done. And so in that way, being able to launch additional products and services for your existing clients, it's the fastest way to get more revenue, and it's with the least amount of work, and it's a great way to test it. So I always encourage practitioners when they're wanting to move digital, it's like, okay, well, let's get this set up for your existing clients. And it's a much easier setup from a tech standpoint, and all of that. And then if appropriate, of course, if that's the right audience and all that. And then when you have that proven product and kind of like proven ways to be able to talk about it, and you have testimonials, all that, then you can go to the top of the funnel and get them in there, because you're able to have refined that, which is a little bit harder at that point, but you've already ironed out some of the sticking points then when you're launching that way. So I kind of like to think about it in both ways, that there's a couple different ways to incorporate digital into your product suite.
Okay. And tell us again, I might have missed this, but what do you mean by the top of the funnel?
Yeah, when I'm talking about top of the funnel, it's a little bit more of the in the awareness, like instead of going down into one-on-ones and becoming a client where they maybe have some one-on-one interaction with you first, the top of the funnel is really purely digital, where they might not have any interaction with you or your team before they're purchasing something online.
Okay.
So yeah, when we're talking top of the funnel digital products, a lot of times they're lower cost. If you're trying to sell a big program or something like that, that's going to take more touch points coming down the funnel. So there's a lot of different ways to do that. But I like to think of more like, maybe it's not top of the funnel, but it's higher up in the funnel.
Yeah, it makes sense. And for those of you that are familiar with the work that I do and have heard me talk about a concept that I call the profit pyramid, it's interesting because my profit pyramid is actually an inverted funnel.
Mm.
It's actually I would say the higher end programs, like the one-on-one and the higher cost,
Yeah.
in my model would be at the top,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
It's
Right.
just an infinite funnel, just another
Right.
way of
So
looking
it's
at
kind
it.
of like launching those digital, similar to what I was saying. I think it's just putting it into the traditional, but yeah, putting your digital products down with people who've already engaged with you is an easier way to launch. Just it's a different kind of business activity and a different kind of focus on your marketing when you're trying to go purely digital right from the start. It's a harder shift, I think, than a lot of people realize. Maybe.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Okay, so hopefully that's helpful to everybody in terms of kind of, helping you to start to imagine well, first of all, what is a sales funnel?
Yeah.
And if you're wanting to move in this direction of having, group programs, digital products, which really could, be downloadable, kind of like that DIY, do it yourself, digital courses, that sort of thing, or even, ebooks, that
Yeah.
could be a digital product, right?
Yeah,
So
protocols, all of that kind of stuff. There's a lot of different things that practitioners can do, combining different things together where you maybe have a protocol, an ebook, and a short webinar. People don't have a ton of time to do a lot of online courses, but if you have some content, that's a lot easier and quicker to put together. And you can kind of test things out and see what your clients like or what they want, that kind of thing, without having to invest a lot of time into like a 12-week course or something that's a little heavier.
I really like that. I am a huge fan of starting, just making it easy on ourselves in terms of our starting point, right?
Yeah, right.
So I think what Stephanie is saying is, instead of starting out with a big giant signature program, like a signature group program, like a 5-month or a 6-month kind of a thing, maybe we can start a little smaller and,
Yeah,
dip our toes and get experience, generate some revenue,
yeah,
right? And I actually
right.
really, really love the idea of bundling
Yeah,
what you just said, Stephanie, like maybe a video, it could just be something small, like a couple of short how-to videos mixed
right,
with a protocol, something along those lines, I think could be really, really powerful.
right. Yeah, and remember, I mean, we're talking a lot of strategy. This all goes back to tech, but one more thing on strategy there. It's not about the length of what you're providing. It's not about the amount of content that you're putting out there. It's about the value that it brings to your client. So if you're able to solve a problem with what you're offering in a very simple way, just put that out there and let that be, because that's extremely valuable. If somebody can go out there and purchase something digitally and it's like, oh my gosh, that worked. Oh, I saw, it's done, it's solved, that helped me. They're going to be a huge fan of yours. They're going to say they make it so easy, right? Instead of having to know all of the background behind it and things like that. They just want, a lot of people just want to
They
solve
don't
their
want,
need.
yeah, let's just say normal people, they don't want to know all, the whole
Right,
history of, the science. And you know what I
right,
mean?
right.
We
Yeah.
pay for your blueprint to save
Yeah.
them time.
To
Saving
say
time is
they are
huge.
overwhelmed. Yeah, they are overwhelmed with information and they have a hard time sorting out what the right thing for them is. And so if you're able to provide that, and yeah, they don't like to geek out like we do in the industry. We love to geek out on the science and
Yeah.
all the new stuff coming up and why things are the way they are. But yeah, a lot of clients, consumers, they just want to solve their problem. So
Yeah, that's it. And I always like to say, solve that problem and then think about what comes
next,
next,
yeah,
right? Because,
right,
the reality is you got to sell a lot of
yeah,
these kind of DIY
yeah,
products to pay the mortgage, right? So we do want to be thinking about what is next in the process, or their, the health journey for the person.
right, right. So
So
didn't
we
tie
want to,
Yeah, I did tie that much back to technology, but it's so important to kind of think from a strategic standpoint how you're approaching these things, because yes, that does, go back to the technology. But in this particular instance, especially with digital products and things like that, With one-on-ones, EHRs are excellent, and a lot of EHR systems have the ability to deliver programs and different things like that. And that's really works really well for existing clients. But if you're trying to go more towards the top of the funnel with smaller offers, or big offers, it doesn't necessarily matter which. If you're trying to go a little bit more digital, you want to look at, and even in your one-on-one practice, you want to look at systems that can kind of handle all those things and grow with you with that. And I love how Leslie was saying, yeah, if you start small with an offer, there's some big stuff. You want to figure out, how does that technology and experience work for your clients? And if you do a big product with a lot of complexities in there, you're going to find a lot of limitations in an EHR to be able to do that for sure. But also, it's just gonna take, a lot of time on your end to figure out how to deliver it that way. If you start small, you're able to kind of get acclimated to that technology and make sure that it's in there. And when you're vetting technology for this particular purpose, there's a whole advent now of so many more all-in-one tools like Stream Connect. It's an all-in-one marketing tool where you can deliver courses, you can do all your marketing, you can do all your funnel pages, your emails, your sales process, all of that. So a lot of practitioners, they handle a lot of this in their EHR, but that's really intended for when you're onboarding people into your practice to work with them. It's like your private office space, where a marketing system is really meant for this top of the funnel stuff and nurturing people down in the steps in that part before they're really getting into that purchase. And so if you think about your digital offer and what that experience needs, it really needs to be a system that can handle a lot of different pieces and grow with you. So all-in-one marketing systems would be the thing to look at in that case. Yeah.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And one reason I love collaborating with Stephanie, and I think our conversation so far kind of illuminates this, is the synergy, right? Like my brain goes really to strategy, and Stephanie's very strategic, but also specializes in the technology. So it makes it really fun. All right. So for those of us that really feel just that sense of overwhelm through marketing, which I know is super, super common, what would you say is the simplest structure that you would recommend in order to create consistency? Because we hear that all the time. Just pick something and do it consistently.
Yeah.
So,
right.
But
exactly.
Because life happens.
Yeah. Right. Well, and a lot of people leave it up to motivation. Like, well, I'll do my marketing when I feel like it. Well, you're probably not going to feel like it. You know what I mean? Like, it's not always the funnest thing to have to do. It doesn't always come naturally for people either. I'm one of those people. Like, I need a structure in place. And so what I would say, just like your sales process and marketing, both they're processes. And so if you think of your marketing as a process, you determine, one, where does content come from? And of course, a lot of times that needs to come, like, you want it to be your voice, you want it to be your content. So one tip I like to give my clients is, create this process where it's like, how are you able to easily capture thoughts in 2 seconds after appointments and things like that? So when you're in and working with your people, the questions they ask, the responses you give, all of those things are awesome content. And so if you, as a practitioner, create a little system, have a little Google Doc open, doesn't matter what it is, where you're able to record just a couple of thoughts after you're working with somebody, a question they had or whatever that is, get that information down in a very simple way. And then from there, you're able to get that into a process. You put that up to the side, and when you have your scheduled time to create your content, get out ChatGPT or Claude. I like Claude a little better for voice. And go to town creating. And when you're creating content, I like to call it a content engine, where you're not just creating one-off pieces of content. You can have themes like, okay, all this month I'm going to have a theme, and I'm going to create a blog post on this topic or 2 blog posts on this topic. And then from that, I'm going to split that up into 4 emails, and it's going to be 8 posts. And you're using that same topical bucket and perspectives to shake out all of the content in this. And as you can see, that is really easy to then bring somebody else in. Now, say you only had enough time to maybe write the blog posts, or at least get your brainstorm out on the blog post. You can get that over to a writer. And if that's, if, okay, blog post looks good, guaranteed that's going to split up into socials so much easier. And a writer is able to take it and get your voice all throughout, because it's all stemming from one piece of content. And doing that too with any other content that you've created already. If you've created a course, if you've had a webinar, if you've had any of those kind of events where you've given your perspectives, use those and split those up, but think of them as bigger buckets where you're able to get a ton of content out of the one thing, and that can go a long way. And so in that particular way, you are able to be active on several different mediums. The other tip I would say is avoid the mediums that just aren't going to be the thing that is going to attract your people. Go on the platforms where you know that they are. And if they're not working, if you're consistent and it's not generating anything for you, and you're putting extra effort into like creating reels or something like that for Instagram, and if that's not working and your people aren't there, be okay with letting that go and double down on the places that are working. Because as a private practice, if you're a smaller practice, even a multiple person practice, it doesn't take, it might take 3 really strong sources of leads to keep your practice running smoothly, right? And have people coming in, and that's okay. That's okay. So that's what I would say is like, get a structure for it, get a process going, schedule your days and a way to pull that information out of you, and then just work the process. It's 1, 2, 3. This is how it goes. Your systems are connected and you're scheduling things out, and you're not having to put a lot of extra time into it.
I love that. Yeah. I always like to talk about, just squeezing as much gold as you can out of every single piece of content. So like a blog post, oh my gosh. And especially with AI, it is so easy to, to use that same content in different formats.
Right.
It's just so easy nowadays. So
really. And it's okay to repost, it's okay to content back out there.
I got that question yesterday. Gosh, is it okay to do that? To, have similar content on multiple platforms? The answer is yes.
Absolutely, it is. And I think also know what the purpose of that platform is for you. So there are some practices where Instagram is a source of leads and their activity out there matters. And in that particular instance, you need to be going live. You need to have reels. You need to be putting extra time and effort into that sending DMs, things like that, right? However, if you're a practice where that's not going to be your main source of leads, you're maybe more local, you have more referral traffic, your SEO is good, things like that, then you might want to think of Instagram as more of a place where you might post a couple times a week or a few times a month, just to have a presence there. It's like I think of it as like a brochure or a place where people are going to check you out online and they just want to see if you're legitimate, right? And it might not be like, are you an influencer on Instagram? How many followers do you have? That might not be the case, but they might just want to be like, okay, how active is this practice? Are they, people look at your website, people look on Instagram for those purposes. So those are 2 very different ways to manage your social profile. Putting fresh information out there that's not like riveting or like mind-blowing, but it's professional and it's good and it's a presence. That's a method. That's a way to stay fresh online without worrying like, oh, I got to get clients from Instagram, right? Mm-hmm. And you can also, there's ways where you can mine Instagram for clients too. So that's there's different purposes for it. So just know what the purpose of that platform for you is and what your expectations of it are, and make sure that that if it's not doing that, then shift your strategy, and that's okay. It's okay.
All right. Can you comment at all on your thoughts on, using social media, i.e., Instagram, to actually get clients?
Yeah.
Like, what
Yeah.
does that look like?
Yeah.
Because
So
I talk to are like, oh my gosh, I don't even know if I want to do it. It's so time consuming, and I don't actually get clients from it.
right.
So,
Right. Unless you put the time in. So what it looks like to get clients from Instagram is that you're doing all the trending stuff, right? So you're putting reels out there with trending music, and you're, doing the little thing that's popular at the moment. And then a lot of it's done via like DMs and things like that, trying to get people into your funnel, because that's one of the challenges on social is, one, to get people to follow you, put a fresh content out regularly, and mostly video, because video is the thing that's going to get you in front of the most people. And so, yeah, it's a daily activity. Then that
mhm.
marketing strategy is pretty much a daily, or at least 5 days a week activity, where you're creating content, putting it out there, and then responding to people on Instagram. So it's not just from your posts where they're just going to go to your website and schedule with you. It's mining. So it's an active reaching out, like, oh, hey, blah 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 blah. I noticed you said this, and da, 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 da. So you're starting conversations and responding and sending voice memos, those kind of things, to get them in your funnel and get them further down. And then once they're in your funnel, you need to have that strong discovery call, and the process from there. And so there are some people who love that. Some people who love that activity. They're on social already. It's part of their way they, are interacting. And so that's not a problem. But I find most practitioners like, oh, it's just not how I want to spend my time. And that's okay. It's okay to have a presence there without having to expect all of your leads to come from there, or any, if for that
Okay.
matter. Yeah.
I think
So
that's a
that's
great
what it looks.
point. So in your opinion, Stephanie, does it make sense then? Okay, so again, I would agree. There are exceptions, but I would just say in general, most people I talk to, they don't want to spend tons and tons of time every day, like DMing and all that kind of thing, right? Like it is a thing and it can
If
be
it's
very
time to spend with your clients on it, you
yeah,
know what I mean?
but
Yeah.
they don't
Right.
have time, right? That's just not how they want to spend time. So if people in our audience are wired that way, which I can totally relate to, does social media make sense? What
I
would the
think it
point for them?
Yeah, what would the point be? I think it just goes back to that brochure, of having that presence, the professional presence, it doesn't have to be riveting, perspectives or anything like that, but a little bit of personality out there, just so that when people are checking you out online, which they do, people check you out on, primarily like Instagram, and on, like, of course, your website. Just make sure that it's tuned up and it's looking good. It's kind of like it's your front door. It's your storefront. This is people aren't necessarily driving by the store to see what kind of establishment you are. They're going online and looking at your website and looking at Instagram to just say, like, yeah, are they, it feels a little shady. Like, think about your own experience. If you go online and you're looking for a local business, or virtual for that matter, and they have kind of a too slim of a website, or it's not really current, and you can't really tell, there's no pictures of people on there, and you're like, oh, is this weird? And then you go to Instagram and you can't find them, or they like have one post on there, and it's kind of like, are they active, or what's going on with this business? It looks like a storefront where you have overgrown bushes and weeds, and you're not quite sure, like, is it open? You know what I mean? That kind of a thing. And so that's how I would think about it. It's not that you have to, like, be drawing people in. It's got to be the best, but make sure your windows are clean. Make sure your weeds are cleaned up, and that your storefront is looking spiffy.
Yeah. Yeah, I would absolutely agree with that. So, yeah, and people will like if you get a referral, they're going to look you up. They're going to
Yeah,
Google you or,
yeah.
whatever,
They're
they're
checking.
going to look you up. They're going to check you out. They're probably going to look at your social sites and just get a sense of what you're all about, if they like you, if they, like your approach, those sorts of things. So,
Exactly.
yeah, so I agree. I concur 100%. Okay, so let's move into let's talk a little bit about how to make the administrative process a little smoother,
Right.
uh, really for both parties, right? In terms of the client or patient,
Yeah.
as well as, the practitioner and if they have a team. So do
Yeah.
you have any suggestions that we can kind of take and run with, maybe implement today
Yeah.
that would help, kind of smooth out that process for, both sides?
Yeah, absolutely. So, what we typically find is like practitioners are pretty good at the delivery of like what they do after their appointment, how they send the information to their client. That's one area, of course. If you don't have that tuned up, that's an easy one. If you're in an EHR, make sure that that's all set up with templates and things like that. But backing up into the sales process, a lot of times when people are bringing on team members, or a lot of times they're bringing on a VA first, or office manager type of a thing, somebody to help with the admin side. And for before you do that, the best thing you can do is make sure your front, your top of the funnel activities, and your sales process have processes and automations. A way that what happens when somebody reaches out to you, from your contact form? Do you have a process for how you're going to respond every time? Like, okay, like this is where it goes. The email goes here. It's easy to respond. Here's my 5 different snippets that I might respond with. Now, you might be copy pasting that into an email, and that's okay for right now. But there's way easier ways to be able to do that for sure from a technology standpoint. But that would be something to do today, is like go through how are all the different ways that people might contact me, and how do I make it easy to quickly respond, right? And if you get that set up in the communications and your little, emails, different things like that set up, that can easily go into an automated process where you can have automated responses, or at least much quicker tools to be able to respond, right? And think about that in the first part of your process, because that's where so many people spend way too much time. One, if you're doing back and forths on scheduling a discovery call, it's a free call. If you have 3 emails going back and forth trying to schedule a time, get a
Right.
scheduler, and don't use your EHR for that. That's a sales activity that should be outside of your HR. When they get into your EHR, that's your private office space. They have to sign up for an account. Nobody wants to sign up for an account for a discovery call. So
Oh my gosh.
easy part. That's an easy.
Okay,
Yeah.
but okay, I think can we don't lose your train of thought on all the other things, but I just want to emphasize like that is kind of mind blowing, to be honest.
Discovery.
Because I think pretty much I'd love to hear from our audience if you have any comments there. But I think for discovery calls, I think most of us use our EMR.
Yes. Right. I
And it
see that a lot. And then you're getting a lot of content. I mean, I hope you close a lot of those. That would be great. But you're getting a lot of context in there, and they're not necessarily on your email list. They're not,
mm,
you don't have a easy way to be able to nurture that client afterwards.
okay.
And that really is a sales activity that should be done in a sales system that can track your leads. You know where they are in your process. You know what the process is. Like, okay, I do this, and then I do this, and I do this. I follow up with them, and they get this email. All of that can be automated. But yeah, if you're doing it in your EHR, you're going to be limited as to what that communication can be, and the tracking. And so you really should think about your business. It shouldn't be silos, because you do want those two to communicate. You want your EHR to be something that can integrate with your marketing system, which is we do a lot of that at
Okay.
String Connect. We're integrating systems so that they're talking to each other, and you can onboard really easy and it's smooth, right?
Okay.
But yeah, think of your sales and marketing should have its own system,
Okay.
to be in there. Yeah.
I just think it's huge. Like just what you said. If and I want to reiterate, in addition to everything we've talked about here in terms of like kind of separating the sales and marketing, um, just think of the experience for your prospective client or patient, right? So if they have to jump through hoops in order to, just have a quick call with you to see if you're a good fit, if I have to enter all kinds of personal information, oh my gosh, jump through a bunch of hoops, I don't know if I'm going to actually do it. So
Right.
you have the likelihood of possibly losing the lead. So can I ask you really quick, what would that look like
Yeah.
if we're not, because these EMRs,
Yeah.
EHRs, they come with scheduling, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
you're saying
Right.
don't
Right.
use it
So,
for
yeah,
discovery
there's
calls. What do we do
there's
instead?
yeah, right. There's a good reason why practitioners have used it. I don't blame them at all because they already have it. It's a tool and they're used to it. It's on their calendar already and they got it all, set up. So bringing another system in feels scary and how do I not overbook and all that kind of stuff, right? But what that looks like when you're using it outside of that system, one, you want to have some shared calendar, right? So between the two systems, a lot of times, like with String Connect, we, have one like a Google Calendar or something like that that's housing both of the schedules so that you're not getting conflicts. It's checking and syncing, right? And then in for your process, you have on your website or you're sharing a link with people that they could just select a time preset by you
Mhm.
and then get scheduled. Of course, you want to probably have some vetting questions with that. So you mentioned forms. Yeah, there's a big difference between having an intake form and a discovery form. A discovery form is to really find out what is keeping this person up at night so I can connect that back to my service and tell them why it's a good fit. There's also another reason for a good discovery form that might qualify people, right? Like if you only work with difficult cases, they've had to gotten to a few other practitioners first. I see that too. There's ways to vet people out in a form to be like, oh, this might not be for me or whatever that might be. And that's okay if you're needing qualifying forms. And so, yes, having that form. But then from there, what it looks like, if you have this on your website and they're visiting, they're able to do it. You can have it on your Google business profile. They schedule and you're able to then, most scheduling systems, I know String Connect, we do a ton of this where you can automate an email to follow up to go out to them and say, I'm so excited you scheduled the discovery call. Here's a little video to talk about like introduce them. You're warming them up, getting them excited because that is the time when they are like, I want to know about this. I want to know if I want to sign up. They're excited for it, right? And sometimes you can have that little video out there and then below it be like, well, if you're just ready to schedule now, you can go ahead and do that right here. Otherwise, I'll see you on this, for the free call tomorrow or whatever it is, right? And so, yeah, a video follow-up, but you're also able to then the follow-up after the discovery call. You can put them into nurture series. If they show up to the call or don't show up to the call, what's your follow-up then? People are all in different places in your sales process. So having a way to handle each one of those is really important. But yeah, like with String Connect, you set up a calendar, we sync it with your calendar, making sure that only the times showing that you want on there are showing, embed that onto your website, and then people schedule, fill out a form. You're getting that information and automated emails and texts going out to make sure they show up too, because sometimes people forget about those free calls and what a pain and what a waste of time. You just blocked off your schedule for it,
Yeah.
so text reminders, email reminders, and get them on that call. Yeah.
Yeah, I would advocate for the text reminders nowadays. Email's just challenging.
It
So
is. Emails are full.
what were some of the other things that you wanted to mention in terms of, making that administrative process
Yeah.
smooth?
Yeah, exactly. So, after the discovery call, you have that automated follow-ups of a way to handle each scenario. So one scenario is, okay, they signed up. What does that mean? This is the bridge between your sales system and your EHR, right? And making that easy for your admin. One, how easy is it to be able to maybe create a contact in your EHR from your sales system? That's one thing that we do a lot of setting up is just like tag them, boom, they're in that system and they're getting an intake from EHR, right? And so having a simple way when they're signing up or getting in the habit of signing them up right on the call and getting that payment right there. I'm a big fan of that. Like get that done because then they will show up to that appointment. You're not leaving it to them to then sign up. The other thing that happens after a discovery call is, if they showed up, but they didn't purchase and they're thinking about it or whatever, what's that follow-up nurture series? You don't just leave it to chance, and don't leave it to, oh, I'll call them back next week because you don't got time for that. So an automated series that's going to go out after a showed discovery that
Okay.
doesn't purchase right away. And then what happens if they don't show? Do you send them a text and an email that just says, hey, I'm so sorry I missed you. Here's the link to reschedule. Things come up, and have an automated series there. And then, of course, a way to handle everybody where they're getting into your funnel. So from an admin standpoint, that makes it so much easier if you know exactly what to do. And that makes it so much easier then to get your people, like your admin staff, helper, onboarding people, because you're just saying, this is our process and this is how we communicate with them all along the way. This is automated. All you have to do is tag them or do the, small, simple actions. And that makes it so, there's so many other admin activities, but that's one that I find is usually the messiest in the process. I see practitioners copy pasting information over. They're relying on the person on the other side, the client, to find a link in their emails to then sign up for their services and pay, and the perception from a consumer standpoint is, if that's not all smooth, that reflects on how they expect your services to go. I know I've had a couple experiences I'll share. So one time I had hired a practitioner. I'm in this space. It's not a practitioner we've worked with, but it was a local person. I was like, I need somebody. So I was working with somebody local, had a call with them, and then they sent me some information. It was literally this, they copy pasted. It wasn't all the same font. It was mishmash of stuff. And I was like, okay, well, benefit of the doubt. I know a lot of practitioners just aren't great in this area. She needs some help, and I'm just, gonna, benefit of, but it was like, it made a difference to me in how I viewed the services. Like, oh, it might not be as high quality as I'm expecting. She came recommended, like, oh, that's kind of weird. That's a trust factor before people are working with you. So all of that matters, having it look good, feel good, be prompt, all of those things. If you have things set up, automated, and thought out through, and have simple tools to be able, and triggers to be able to do that, it's going to feel so much better on their side. And they'll be like, wow, that was cool. Look at that video. Oh, look at that. Okay, like they got it put together. I feel really confident in spending my money here, because look at just the sales process feels really good. You know what I mean? People don't think that necessarily, but they act on that. They notice it. It is noticeable.
Oh yeah. Oh my gosh. Oh yeah. Like, I can't believe that font example, like different fonts, and oh my, yeah, we want to make sure that does not happen, right?
Right.
So
right.
it
Exactly.
really,
That's what we're here to help people, to clean all of that up. If you have a messy system like that, it's okay. We've seen it over and over, and that's exactly
no
what
judgment. We want
no judgment whatsoever. Right.
And I think the big thing is we just want to make it easier for you, right? Because if you have to remember to do all these things, it is so easy to forget. Things fall through the cracks, So you just want to make it streamlined, easy, push a button, and go about your day.
Exactly. And if you're the primary person doing your sales and you're the practitioner, my goodness, you don't want a discovery call to be lasting, longer than the call is supposed to. And the follow-up needs to be just as fast, right?
Yeah.
So, you got to save your own time. And this is an area, it's like, it's the easy button. Like, cleaning up that part can feel so liberating for practitioners, just because it's like, it doesn't have to be so hard.
So what should a practice owner actually look at each month in order to ascertain if the systems are actually working?
Yeah, absolutely. So I usually go from the top to the bottom of the funnel when I'm kind of thinking of this. So at the top of the funnel, it's, how many leads are you getting, followers, maybe new subscribers, things like that, right? So how many people are newly engaging in your business, or becoming aware of you, in whatever way that means. It could just be, if you go out and speak, it could be your website traffic, things like that. So top of the funnel, pick a couple things up there. that kind of give you good, like where most of your people come from. You should know that, right? Where most of your people are hearing about you. And then the second stage down is how many actual leads did you get? That could be a discovery call. It could be a deeper interaction, like a chatbot widget interactions, contact form submissions, things like that. Just like how many people are stepping down into that next step of engagement with you, whatever that might be on that particular level for you, you want to measure that. And then sales, right? So a lot of people think like in marketing, like we're tracking sales, how many people are purchasing. The downside of only looking at that third level of sales is that you don't have any leading indicators of, are you going to have a lull coming up? Because a lot of times that top of the funnel activity is actually going to come into fruition for you maybe in a month or 2 or 3, like depending on your sales process and everything like that. And so having some of the top of the funnel activities, you'll be able to start to see what's actually leading to sales, right? 2 months ago, I did this activity more and did, all these new people kind of came into the top, and then look at, there is more sales down here, because you'd be surprised how many touches they need in between there, right? To actually take that action. So having some of those leading indicators simply, and I'm not saying track every single one, I'm saying figure out the ones that are actually bringing you leads and track those and keep it simple. Keep it simple. And then of course your sales, how many people are actually signing up for one-on-ones, signing up for programs, whatever that might be. And then the next step down is going to be like in the retention. How many testimonials have you gotten? How many reviews have you gotten? How many repeat clients have you gotten? Because that's really informing your delivery. It's informing your just are people benefiting from it? Are they needing longer term? Are you solving the issue? Because that might inform like your product, your offering. Like, okay, well, I'm not getting a ton of people saying I solved it. Like, oh, it's great to work with them, but like you can bulk up your offer and maybe charge a little bit more. There's a lot of opportunity to watch things. So at the bottom of the funnel, I look at that, and then of course repeat sales would be the other thing. So
yeah, those are good.
Mhm.
And I wanted to acknowledge, we have a question on Instagram about how long a discovery call should be. Do you have any comments on?
I think we both do, don't we, Leslie? Yeah. So
Yeah. Well, I don't think there's a should necessarily. I'll just say the higher price
Yeah.
within reason, probably it's going to take a little longer on the discovery call. If your solution is, $10,000, it's going to be a longer discovery call than, and then the other thing I would just add, if it's a very low cost product, I would invite you to ask yourself, do I need to do a discovery call to sell a $100 thing? Probably, hopefully not, right? Because that's probably not what you see.
There's so many ways to look at that. Like, that could be an entry product or a subscription, lifetime value. Like we do demo calls for what we do, but there's a lifetime value. Like everybody's a little bit different in that way. And I agree. The higher cost of the thing that you're trying to sell, the higher touch your sales process should be. And maybe even, if you're getting up to $10,000, a multiple step sales process isn't bad, where you're kind of qualifying, then you're longer and because you want to create that trust up front, and that's how you're going to be able to, sell something like that. And so, so I think the most important thing in your discovery calls is just like everything else I've said, I love the process, right? Is have a method and a way and a structure to your call. Set the expectations up front. Know what the purpose of the call is. You're not doing a consult. You are, you're finding out what their main pain point is. You're tying that back to your services, giving them examples of how you can help them, and pitching your offer in a very clear way, and then pausing. That's the hardest part. Pause. Not after you ask them if they want to sign up. Like have your, you want to have that part of it's a sales call. So you want to try to, close it. And so, having your structure to your discovery call, even that fits within the time frame, I think that's such a big deal. I mean, it can be 20 minutes, it can be 30 minutes, doesn't necessarily matter. But it's get all of that in without it just being a long conversation, right?
Yeah.
That's not what a discovery call is.
More to come on that topic, right, Stephanie?
Yeah, right, right. Yeah,
More
I can talk about it.
Yeah, Stephanie and I are going to be collaborating on a project having to do with the sales process. So more to come. So I'm happy to see that question. So as we start to wrap up, Stephanie, what would you tell us a little bit about what our audience can do as a next step if they're interested in learning more about, how you can help on the technology side of things?
Absolutely. So if you're looking to expand your offerings to digital, or if you're struggling with tech and you feel like you have disconnected systems and you need some of what we talked about, kind of soothe your soul, like I need that, then visit our website, streammarketing.com. We have a demo call. So like I was saying in the beginning, we have a unique way of approaching our offer, and it's specifically for practitioners. So we have an all-in-one marketing system that does all the things that we've just talked about. And layered with that is our support. It's not required, but it is accessible to you. So you have a team that understands all the different EHRs or EMRs that you guys use. We connect things. We set up marketing systems. We do landing pages. We develop websites, all of those kind of things to help you on the tech and marketing side of your business and making sure that sales process is smooth, and that you have the tools you need. So if you're needing that, join one of our demos, come talk to me, and we'll help you out. We'll see how we can help you.
Fantastic. And just so everybody knows, it's stringmarketing.com. Is that correct?
Yes, stringmarketing.com. Yep.
Okay. So stringmarketing.com. Easy peasy. All right. So, and I really would. I've known Stephanie, gosh, quite a long time at this point, and really want to advocate for her work, just the quality and the care. So if you're at all curious about how Stephanie can help improve your systems, really anything like that on the back end of your business, I would really urge you to reach out to her. Because I'm very confident that she can help. So again, stringmarketing.com, reach out. I'm assuming you've got a whole process in place.
Yes, I have a whole process. Yep. In our demo, you're going to get emails, you'll get a text, you're going to see exactly how we set things up. So everything that we've talked about is what you'll experience there. Yeah.
Okay, fantastic. Okay, guys, time flies, right? Holy mackerel. It is already an hour. So we're going to call it for today. So thank you so very much for joining us today. Special thanks to Stephanie for your time and wisdom. And I'll look forward to seeing you all next week. All right. Take care. Have a great rest of your week. Bye for now.
Thank you, Leslie. Bye, everybody.
All right. Okay. Awesome. Let's see.
Are we still live?
We're not.
Oh.
Okay. Cool. That was great. It goes by so fast.
It does go by so fast. I know. I'm always like, oh, I didn't share that. But I think we got into some good meat.
I do too. I actually, there are some things that I know that I could do better. So I'm excited to, I'm going to read through the transcript. I upgraded StreamYard right before our call, able to, because we're doing reels and shorts, and I want to. Oh, hang on. Oh, I was like, oh, I have a Zoom meeting. I think it's with you.
Should we hop on Zoom?
Yeah, let's hop on Zoom.
Okay. I'll be over there. See you in a minute.